VON Radio from the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis.
From the VON Newsline, this is the VON Major Newscast.
In with your VON Major News Package for today, Friday, July 19th, 2019. In our lead stories nationally, Soca Monarchs semifinals sets the stage for the weekend as Cultural Village opens, and over $100 million is provided to Nevis from Team Unity Administration from 2015 to present day. Regionally, Jamaica could see states of emergency for up to 7 years. Internationally, South Africa's ex-president Jacob Zuma reverses course on corruption inquiry. And in sports, case dismissed, Australian media group loses appeal against West Indies star Chris Gayle. We'll have the details to these and other stories after this message.
Another look.
Different from how you've seen it before.
Another look.
Takes an in-depth look into business, politics, science, technology, religion, and more.
Another look.
Featuring documentaries from the BBC, regional features, and local ones too.
Another look.
Every Monday at 3 p.m. on the Eastern Caribbean's powerhouse, VON.
Welcome back, and now for the national news.
There will not be an official opening ceremony per se for the opening of the cultural village. What would happen is that the operators, the boat operators at the cultural village would commence their vending or their operations at the venue.
Executive Director of the Culturama Secretariat here on Nevis, Mr. Antonio Abonati Liburd. Mr. Liburd was speaking to the VON Newsline of the opening of the Cultural Village, slated for Saturday, July 20th, 2019. Following the opening of the Cultural Village, the committee will host the Culturama 45 Soca Monarch semifinals.
We will have the National Bank, Groovy and Power Soca Monarch semi-finals, and that is going to be happening 8 o'clock at the Cultural Village, and the cover charge for that event is only $20.
Antonio Abonati Liburd. The 12 artists vying for the spot in the semifinals are Ervika, X-Man, DV, Savage, Lil Miss, Bacchus, Lady Hammond, Soca Empress, Hollywood, Etodan, and Badman Polo. Tomorrow's event will see 12 groovy songs and 11 power songs being performed. From the semifinals, 7 will move on to the finals of the competition, dated for Thursday, August 1st, to compete against reigning groovy king Speedy and Power King Delhi for the crown. In related news, the grand opening of Culturama 45 is slated for next Thursday, July 25th, and the festival, which is themed Love, Passion, Pride Culturama 45, promises to be the greatest summer lime. Prior to the official opening of the festival, it was mentioned that improvements have been made to the cultural complex. Minister of Culture here on Nevis is the Honorable Eric Evelyn.
We had some very elaborate plans for the cultural complex. However, we know that we are experiencing some financial difficulty for this year, and so we could not go through with those elaborate plans that we had for the cultural complex. We believe, of course, the media is very important to us, and we are actually getting increased media coverage for 2019, and so we have increased the pace for the media booths, the numbers, as well as the physical space for the media booths, and so the media will be much more comfortable.
The minister stated that other improvements were done.
We have also increased the space considerably of the ticket booth. Of course, those of us who go to purchase tickets at the ticket booth know how small and clumsy that little area is. We are anticipating increased human traffic this year to all of our shows at the complex and at the village. Apart from that as well, we would have done some work in the lounge area. We normally have a Culturama lounge, done a permanent base this year. Now, we've also spruced up the booths that sell the food booths. And so all of those areas have been repainted. Of course, you recall that last year we would have done some work on the seating and the stage area.
Minister of Culture here on Nevis, the Honorable Eric Evelyn. Over 100 million in budgetary support has been allocated to the Nevis Island administration. That is according to Prime Minister and Minister of Finance here in St. Kitts and Nevis, Dr. the Honorable Timothy Harris. Prime Minister Harris noted that following the Team Unity administration's successes at the polls in the 2015 federal elections, the relationship between the federal government and the Nevis Island administration is at its all-time best. The support is being provided to the Nevis Island administration on an annual basis and through grant funding by the Sugar Industry Diversification Fund, or SIDF. The finance minister added that this has led to significant improvements in the lives and livelihoods of the Nevisian people. The Prime Minister further noted that his Team Unity government has ensured that the SIDF plays a significant role in the development of Nevis with direct financial support to the NIA totaling over 61 million. The 2019 edition of Restaurant Week has begun and has its key ingredient, coconut. In light of this, Minister of Tourism here in St. Kitts, the Honorable Lindsay Grant, encouraged the public to support the event.
As you know, we have coming into St. Kitts Chef Pino, who is on island already. He's a world-renowned chef. He's the one who trained Anthony Bourdeaux, for those of you who follow chefs. And so he's here, and we want you to go out and visit the various restaurants.
Minister of Tourism in St. Kitts, the Honorable Lindsay Grant. The event is now into its 5th year. Restaurant Week is known for bringing in new customers, as well as encouraging customers to try new items at lower prices for the week. Meantime, Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Tourism here on Nevis, Mr. John Hanley, spoke to the VON Newsline about one of the main events.
This Saturday, the 20th, we have the Restaurant Week Tasting Showcase. You can also call these telephone numbers 667-1180 or 469-7550 to reserve your tickets.
Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Tourism here on Nevis, Mr. John Hanley. Restaurant Week ends on July 28, 2019. Citizens and residents on Nevis will once again receive the opportunity to pay their respects to individuals who lost their lives in the Christina disaster. The Nevis Island Administration will, in the next 2 weeks, be holding the annual commemoration service of the MV Christina disaster. The memorial service to commemorate the 49th anniversary of the MV Christina disaster will be held in Charlestown on Thursday, August 1st. The service will be held at the Christina Memorial on the Samuel Hunkins Drive, commencing at 10 a.m. The Christina sank on August 1, 1970, on Emancipation Day holiday, in the channel as it traveled from St. Kitts to Nevis. The vessel, which was carrying 320 passengers, 165 over capacity, only saw 91 individuals surviving the tragedy. After the sinking, 57 bodies were retrieved and identified. 66 bodies were retrieved but were unidentifiable. A number of bodies were trapped inside the sunken wreckage, and these bodies were left in place. The National Assembly of St. Kitts and Nevis is being represented at the 44th Annual Conference of the Caribbean, Americas, and Atlantic Region of the Commonwealth Parliamentary Association, which concludes today, Friday, July 19th. The Assembly is being represented by Speaker A. Michael Perkins and Clerk of the National Assembly, Mrs. Sonia Body Thompson. The conference, which began on July 12th, is being held at the Parliament of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago in Port of Spain. The theme of the conference is Globalization and Nationalism, COVID's Impacts on Commonwealth Parliamentarians. Topics discussed at the conference included migrants and refugees, is there a need for a collective regional response, human rights, are our parliamentarians fully accessible to persons with disabilities, forging a Caribbean identity, how relevant are the Westminster traditions in a modern parliament, the committee system and the part-time parliamentarian, and digital disinformation, the challenges to parliamentarians and democracy. A major highlight of the conference was the staging of the 15th Regional Youth Parliament, which saw the Nevis Island Assembly and the National Assembly of St. Kitts Nevis being represented by 8 students, 4 from Nevis and 4 from St. Kitts. Next year's 45th Regional CPA Conference will be held at the Turks and Caicos Islands. The Nevis Theatre Guild, NTG, in collaboration with the Culturama Secretariat, will host a dramatic arts festival from Sunday, July 21st to Saturday, July 27th at the Nevis Performing Arts Center, or NEPAC, beginning at 8 p.m. nightly. The NTG is a non-profit organization which seeks to make theater productions a part of Nevis culture. Managing Director of the Nevis Theatre Guild, Mr. P. Clayton Huggins, explained what the organization hopes to achieve through the Dramatic Arts Festival.
One of the things I notice about our society is that we have a limited range of activities for people to participate in. And I know that because for 5 years I did a monthly poetry reading. I'm an associate with Poets in the Square. And you can get people to attend very easily a dance. You can get people to attend certain kinds of functions, music and so on. But when you put on productions, the audience is there, but it is not as wide as for other cultural practices. And what we want to do is to make theater almost like a natural part of the cultural landscape.
Mr. P. Clayton Huggins. The admission fee for children is $20 and adults pay $40. Tickets can be purchased online at caribtickets.com. And finally, in national news, the 8 Explorers Club, namely Trinity Explorers, which is an initiative by the National Intervention Team of Ministry of National Security, headed by Inspector Rosemary Isles, was launched at NEMA headquarters in St. Kitts on Sunday, July 14th. Prime Minister and Minister of National Security, the Honorable Timothy Harris, delivered remarks at the launch and said that based on a study conducted throughout the Eastern Caribbean, parents and guardians are the single most important influence in a child's life. He added that when parents and guardians attend important life events such as sports days, graduations, meetings, and other events, it aids in the development of children. In wake of the Prime Minister's remarks, Inspector Isles led the children in reciting the Explorers song and motto and officially handed them over to their new leader, Officer Leuston Percival. Officer Percival welcomed the Trinity Explorers to his existing group and thanked Inspector Isles, as well as the other members of the National Intervention Team, for their hard work and dedication. That's it for the national news segment. You can visit our website at www.vaughanradio.com or check us out on our Facebook at Vaughan Radio or our Vaughan Radio YouTube channel for these and other stories. News from across the region is next.
Ladies and gentlemen, this here's another one for the steppers.
Swipe to win big in 2019. That's right, the Bank of Nevis Limited is once again giving you, our valued customers, a chance to win big. Just swipe or use your Bond Visa credit card for US $100 for a chance to win a cruise for two, an iPhone XS, or a grocery dash at Best Buy Supermarket.
Say what?
Sign up for a Bond Visa credit card and automatically be entered for a chance to win. This offer ends August 31st, 2019. So tell your friends and family, just swipe to win big with the Bank of Nevis. The Bank of Nevis Limited, improving the quality of life. Like us on Facebook or follow us on Instagram.
Welcome back, and now for the regional news. As the Jamaican government aims to reduce murder significantly, Prime Minister Andrew Holness says the country could see states of emergencies, or SOEs, sustained for up to 7 years. A state of emergency is a situation in which a government is empowered to perform actions it would normally not be permitted to do so. A government can declare such a state during a disaster, civil unrest, or armed conflict. Speaking in the House of Representatives in a debate on extending the state of emergency in the St. Andrew South Police Division until October 5th, he argued that the SOE was the best tool at the time for achieving a meaningful reduction in murders. Between January 1st and July 15th this year, Jamaica has recorded 726 murders and 726 shootings across 19 police divisions. The total number of people killed last year was 1,287. Holness said the SOEs are very effective in controlling the geographical spaces in which the murders are occurring. The House approved the 90-day extension of the SOE for the St. Andrew South Division. The SOE, which gives the security forces temporary additional powers, including to search, arrest, curtail opening hours of businesses, restrict access to places, and detain persons without a warrant, first went into effect on July 7th. In the Bahamas, an American female, a homeowner in Green Turtle Clay, Abaco, drowned while swimming with her 2 grandsons in the water on Gillam Bay Beach, Green Turtle Clay. Reporters say she was caught in a rip current. No names have been disclosed. According to the BahamaPress.com, persons nearby rescued the 2 boys and the victim, who was brought to shore. This CPR was administered to the female by local residents. EMS personnel and the nurse from the government clinic also assisted in the matter, but she was later pronounced dead by the medical officer. News from Anguilla: the Phased Goods and Services Tax, or GST, will be imposed from September this year, but beginning at a low rate. Consultants in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Mr. Glenville John, gave reasons for Anguilla's decision to introduce the GST and said that the island was required to conform with certain international trends, having been grossly lagging behind. According to Mr. John, there are 3 phases of the GST. Phase 1 involves the reform of the international trade taxation structure. Phase 2 will be the partial introduction of the GST, which is slated for January 2021, and Phase 3, which is the adaptation of the full GST, is scheduled for 2023. And finally, in our regional news segment, Grenada's Prime Minister, Dr. Keith Mitchell, has lauded the signing of a memorandum of understanding between the University of the West Indies Open Campus and the regional rum industry, grouping the West Indies Rum and Spirits Producers Association, or WIRSPA. Speaking last week at the signing of the MOU in Grenada, Dr. Mitchell said the initiative, which will see as its first task the development of an online training initiative for the industry, was a great example of the university applying itself to the needs of the productive sector, one in which the Caribbean possessed a wealth of expertise and heritage. The MOU was signed during a reception to welcome members of the industry to Grenada for the WIRSPA's annual technical meeting held from July 9th to the 11th, 2019. The meeting saw over 35 persons from many of the grouping's large and small distilleries discussing key issues including responsible drinking and inter alia. That's it for the regional news segment. International news is up next. Welcome back, and now for the international news. Former South African President Jacob Zuma will give further testimony to a corruption inquiry, withdrawing an earlier threat to pull out. His lawyer, Mozi Sikankane, had said that Mr. Zuma will no further take part in the proceedings. However, the judge overseeing the inquiry later said Mr. Zuma had agreed to provide it with written statements. The inquiry is investigating allegations that the ex-leader oversaw a web of corruption while in office. The 77-year-old, who began testifying on Monday, was forced to resign as president in February 2018. More from the BBC's Andrew Harding.
It's been a dramatic day in South Africa as the country struggles to tackle high-level corruption. First came the news that the former president, Jacob Zuma, was refusing to continue giving evidence at a public inquiry into the corruption that took place on his watch. But after consulting with the judge, Mr. Zuma backed down. Then came a separate announcement from the public protector, a state official charged with exposing corruption. She said the current president, Cyril Ramaphosa, had misled Parliament over a donation his election campaign received via his son. Mr. Ramaphosa has insisted he knew nothing about the donation at the time.
A female tiger which fled a wildlife park in India's flood-ravaged state of Assam was found relaxing on the bed inside a local resident's house. She is believed to have fled the Kaziranga National Park, where 92 animals have died in recent days amid heavy flooding. Officials from a wildlife conservation group arrived at the house and created an escape route for her. She was guided in the direction of the jungle. According to the Wildlife Trust of India, or WTI, the tigress was first spotted next to a highway on Thursday morning, some 200 meters away from the national park. And finally, in our international news segment, extremely hot weather has started to hit most of the United States, with temperatures set to peak over the weekend, meteorologists say. The heat wave could affect about 200 million people in major cities like New York, Washington, and Boston in the East Coast and the Midwest region. In some places, temperatures could be close to or exceed 100 degrees Fahrenheit. Parts of Canada are also being hit. Experts linked more frequent heat waves in the recent years to climate change. The world experienced its hottest June on record this year, with an average temperature worldwide of 61.6 degrees Fahrenheit or 16.4 degrees Celsius, according to new data. Earlier this month, the U.S. state of Alaska, part of which lies inside the Arctic Circle, registered record high temperatures. That's it for the international news. Sports is up next.
See you, John. Betty, how come you never tell me what's going on up at TDC?
Well, I'm glad you asked, because TDC Automotive has some awesome deals. Get the car a new spare tire for just $100 plus VAT. And they have selected tires for 30% off. And for the Jeep, if you buy a selected Goodyear tire, you can get a second one for just $99.
Well, well.
And not finished yet. They're offering up to 30% off selected Valvoline oils and Universal car mats and a whopping 50% off Energix batteries.
TDC Automotive not making no joke. I going up there now.
Welcome back, and now on to sports. An Australian media group lost an appeal earlier this week against a $211,000 defamation payout to West Indies cricket star Chris Gayle after claiming he exposed his genitals to a masseuse. Gayle was accused by former media group Fairfax, which at the time was the publisher of the Sydney Morning Herald and The Age, of exposing his privates and indecently propositioning the woman in a dressing room during the 2015 World Cup in Sydney. Gayle vigorously denied the allegations, claiming the journalists behind the series of stories published in the newspapers in 2016 were out to destroy him. He won the defamation case in October last year after jurors found Fairfax was motivated by malice and had failed to establish a defense of truth. The publisher appealed the case, arguing it did not receive a fair trial and the judge should have discharged the jury after Gayle's barrister attacked the credibility of the massage therapist. Gayle also appealed the size of his payout, seeking an increase. The New South Wales court dismissed both appeals. In athletics, double Olympic 100-meter champion Shelly-Ann Fraser-Pryce will go head-to-head with British sprint star Dina Asher-Smith at the Anniversary Games in London this weekend. Jamaica's Fraser-Pryce, 32, is returning to a happy hunting ground, having retained her Olympics 100-meter title in the London Stadium in 2012. Fraser-Pryce, who is returning to her best form after clocking a joint world leading time of 10.73 seconds in Kingston in June, also faced world indoor champion Muriel Ahor and world 200-meter champion Daphne Shippers. British record holder Asher-Smith, 23, set a season's best time of 10.91 seconds in the finishing second behind Fraser-Pryce at the Lausanne Diamond League meeting earlier this month. In the women's 200-meter, the star attraction Elaine Thompson of Jamaica, who won a 100-meter and 200-meter sprint double in the Rio Olympics. The men's former 100-meter Jamaican world champion Johan Blake against Canadian star Andre DeGrasse, who has struggled with illness and injury since winning 3 Olympic medals in 2016. And finally, in basketball, journeyman guard J.R. Smith is reportedly exploring options after being waived by the Cavaliers. J.R. Smith was recently waived by the Cleveland Cavaliers, and it appeared his NBA journey could continue nearby. The 33-year-old played in just 11 games last season after he stepped away from the team in hopes of being traded or released. It was a mutual decision because he was not happy with his role in the Cavaliers, and the Cavaliers, did not want him to be a negative influence on their young players. One of the NBA's most accurate three-point shooters, Smith, played a vital part in the Cleveland winning in the 2016 championship, ending a 52-year title drought for the city's 3 major sports teams. Smith made 2-pointers during a critical stretch of Game 7 of the finals, helping the Cavaliers complete a historic comeback from a 3-1 series deficit to dethrone the Golden State Warriors. That's it for sports. The weather is up next. The weather tonight, mostly fair with a 20% or slight chance of showers. The weather tomorrow, partly sunny with a 30% or low chance of showers. Winds east-southeast at 11 to 26 kilometers per hour or 4 to 16 knots. Seas 1 to 1.5 meters or 3 to 5 feet. Sunset today 5:46 a.m. Sunrise tomorrow 5:46 a.m. Sunset tomorrow 6:48 p.m. And that's how we wrap up the major news package for today, Friday, July 19th, 2019. Before we go, let's take a look at the headlines once again. Nationally, Soca Monarch semifinals sets the stage for the weekend as Cultural Village opens. and over $100 million provided to Nevis from the Team Unity administration from 2015 to present day. Regionally, Jamaica could see states of emergency for up to 7 years. Internationally, South Africa's ex-president Jacob Zuma reverses course on corruption inquiry. And in sports, case dismissed, Australia Media Group loses appeal against West Indies star Chris Gayle. On behalf of the rest of the news team, I am Daniel Moore, wishing you a pleasant weekend.